Good morning, class. Today we are going to be finishing up our narrative writing assignment. You have gone through a lot. It has been several weeks since we started this project, and we are just a few steps away. At this point, you should have all 5 paragraphs written inside of your rough draft, and it is just a matter of cleaning it up, fixing it up, and making sure that it is going to get you full credit. So right now I'm going to walk you through the steps of fixing up the format so that when you turn it in, you get full credit for formatting. Do not forget that you are turning in your final draft in a different location than you turned in your rough draft. Okay, so make sure that you check to see where the final draft is at on your Schoology page and copy over what you have from your rough draft into this final draft. Okay, so the first step is copying it over. Once we have that, you should end up with something looking like this inside of your final draft. This is a big, huge mess. I have messed it up especially to kind of exaggerate it. Hopefully yours isn't actually this messy. We can see that we have all sorts of formatting issues. There's different spaces between our paragraphs. There's different fonts. Some lines are bold. Some words are smaller than others. Some words are bigger than others. So we're going to work on fixing that up and put this into a proper format that you can use on every single paper for the rest of your life, basically, because this is something that you will find most high school teachers do. Most college professors will ask you to do this as well. Okay, so first things first, when I gave you your rough draft, I gave you instructions like this, and then also section instructions like this right here. You need to just make sure that those are gone. So I'm going to go through and delete those and make sure that there's nothing in this that I myself did not write in my paper. Okay, so anything that you did not yourself write is going away. Okay, now I'm going to show you a quick fix for how we can get everything like this into looking the same. Okay, we've got this line is bold, this line's in a different font, this line's a different size, this line's a different size. So what we can do is just highlight everything, start at the top, click, hold your click in, drag all the way down until you have the entire thing highlighted. Now we're going to come up to this toolbar, and at the very end of our toolbar is this little T with a strike through it. This is to clear formatting. So what this is going to do is going to take whatever fonts, whatever sizes, whatever bold that we have, and it's going to make all of that go away. So you can see that it kind of shrank our paper a little bit by condensing everything down into one line here, and in one size, one font, and it's looking a little more uniform already. All right, so take a second right now to go ahead and do that for yourself. All right, our next step is to manually make sure that all of our paragraphs are the same distance apart from one another. So we can see this paragraph here is much further apart from this from the paragraph before it than anything else on here. So what I'm going to do is just click in front of my at the beginning of this paragraph and just start pressing backspace until it is flush with the paragraph above it. Now it's starting to look like one big chunk, and of course we can go through here and make sure that we have indentations. Now that we have every paragraph an equal distance from one another, it can be kind of hard to see where one paragraph ends and another begins. This is a very big block of text. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. So here's what we're going to do to fix that format. We're going to click and drag and highlight the entire thing once again. And now we're going to come up to this toolbar and look for the icon with 3 lines and an arrow pointing up and down. It'll say line spacing when you hover over it. I'm going to click on that and come down to where we see add space after paragraph. Click on that, and that's going to put a small space between all of your paragraphs. They're all still equally distanced from one another. Now there's just one small gap in between them. Makes it a little bit easier for us to see where one paragraph ends and another begins. This way we can come through and indent all of these paragraphs that we couldn't before see the difference between. Before they looked like this, it was a lot harder to see where one stopped and one ended. Now they look like this. We can see where one starts and one stops. So to indent, we go to the beginning of each of our lines of our paragraphs, and we press the Tab key on our keyboard. Tab, 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 and one more down here. With small paragraphs like this, sometimes it's easy to overlook them. So now we have everything looking very uniform. We are, all of our paragraphs are equally distanced. They're all in the same font. They're all the same size. And they're all indented. It looks a lot more professional. Go ahead and stop right now and make sure that you've done all of those things. All right, our next task is to put some stuff at the beginning of our paper. So if we look up at the top here, there's actually no room for us to write above the paper. We're going to click as far up as we possibly can, which it won't let me click any further up than this word "the." So I'm going to click right here and I'm going to press enter. It should keep my tab, and now I can click above it. If it sets you in like this, then just press backspace. You want to make sure that your blinking line is all the way over to the left. Okay, so up here we're going to add what's called a heading. A heading gives important information about you, the author of this paper. It tells us who you are, why you wrote it, and how old this paper is. So this is a standard format that people use all over the place. We're going to use it together here. I want you to learn this format. I know some of you have been taught other formats in the past, but this is one that I've seen used pretty much everywhere. Okay, so we're going to start with our name, and first name and last name. So I'm going to come up with an example student here. I'll call him Student. And then student is going to put, after his first and last name, the name of his teacher. And I'm his teacher, so he's going to put my name, Mr. Sullivan. Okay, if I was a doctor or a professor, you would put Professor or Dr. Sullivan, but I am not, so you just put Mr. Okay, the next thing we do is put down the course that we are writing this for, in case the teacher has you for multiple classes. So I obviously have you guys just the once, but in the future, I want you to be used to this so that if that ever happens, and again, as I said, this is just a standard thing that's done. So this class is ELA, and you guys are in 8th grade. If you were printing this out and passing this in to me, there's a potential that it could get shuffled in with 7th grade, so that is still a useful bit of information about yourself. All right, the final thing that we have to have on here is the date, and just like everything else before this, we're going to do it in a specific format because that's just how it's done. Okay, instead of writing the date out with 12/18/2020 like that you might be used to, we're going to write it out with the actual name of the month. We're not going to abbreviate it, DEC for December. We're going to write out the entire month, DECEMBER, December. And then you can either put down today's date or the day that it is due. I tend to put down the day that it's due in college because then if it was late, it was a little further back. So we'll put down the date that it's due, comma, and then the year, 2020. Okay. So once we have this down, that's all the information we need about ourselves as the writer. We have our first and last name, who we're writing this for, what class and what grade this is in case that teacher loses it, and then the date that we're supposed to have this turned in. And No one's ever going to know if it's a little behind. It's a trick for the future. Don't you dare turn it in late for me. All right. The next thing we need to have is a title. So come right here at the end of where we put the date and press enter. And that'll give us a single line right here between our heading and the beginning of our story. So we have one line right here. Now a title does not get any special formatting. So let me say that again so that you hear it from me. A title does not get any special formatting. We do not make it bigger than anything else. We do not make it bold. We do not put it in quotation marks. We do not put it in italics. This is not a book. This is not an article. This is not a movie. So we don't use any of the tools that you may have been taught for titles when talking about those things. This is a paper that you've written for school. We just put it in the same exact font as everything else. There are only two special things that you have to do for a title. You have to put it in the center of the page, and you have to make sure that the first letter of each word is capitalized. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. First, we're going to put it into the center of the page. We can do that by coming up to our toolbar and going over until we find these 4 lines, and hovering over it will say center align. There are 4 of these icons with 4 lines on them. This is the second one over. Okay, and you can see that these lines are kind of aligned to the center of the page. Click on that, and our little blinky line will move here into the center, and we can begin typing our title. Okay, making sure to keep the first letter of each word capitalized. Okay, so go ahead and take a second to write out the title of your story, and then come back, and I'm going to show you something here that you might not have caught. All right, welcome back. Here we go looking at this title again, and some of you may have noticed that certain words in my title of the story, should not actually have been capitalized. So the rule is that we capitalize the first letter of each word. So I took that literally when writing out title of the story. I capitalized of and the. However, when we have small words like of and the, we do not capitalize the first letter of those words. So I can just kind of get rid of that big O, get rid of that big T, and make them lowercase. Okay, you can do that for any word that is 3 letters or smaller. Okay, unless it's a big important word or at the beginning of the title. Okay? If the is at the beginning, then that remains capitalized. Okay. All right, so it is common practice to make sure that you're using the standard font of the industry that you are working in. If you are working inside of printing, they might tell you a specific font that they want you to use. And when you're working in college or in school, they may tell you a different font that they want you to use. So the standard for school is still, last I checked, Times New Roman. So in order to make all of this into the Times New Roman font, what we're going to do is highlight everything. Click at the very top of your title, your heading, scroll all the way down until we have the entire thing highlighted, and then we're going to come up here to where it says Arial and click on that. Now, if you skipped my step for clearing the format, then yours may not say Arial. That's something to keep in mind. Once we have this drop down, we go down to Times New Roman, and that's going to change the entire paper into the Times New Roman font. Okay, whether or not you like this font, it is the standard, and it is what we're going to use for all of our papers. Now, there's just one more formatting thing, and one more thing that I have required of you for this paper, and then we're done. Okay, it is also standard practice to keep a space between each of these lines. Way back in the day, before even my time in school, when you would write out your papers on a piece of notebook paper, you would skip every other line so that there's a space between each of your lines. That was so that your teacher could write underneath of it and correct certain things about your paper. That's a little outdated now, but last I checked, it was still asked of you in most courses that you'll take. I've seen high schools as recently as last year that were still requiring their students to do this. So we are going to highlight everything below our title. We don't want our title and we don't want our heading. We want everything below it. And then we're going to come back to our line spacing button. That's the 3 lines with the arrow on it. Click on that and then hit double space, and that will insert a small line in between each of the lines on your page, and then we are done. Now you can also see this has the benefit of making it look like you wrote more. That's, I think, probably one of the reasons that nobody has dared to get rid of the practice of double spacing, is because it makes it look like you've done a whole lot more than you did before. One more thing. I am kindly asking that you highlight specific things inside of your paper to make it easier and quicker for me to grade. Now this also benefits you in that if you have multiple things to highlight, I will look at the one that's most correct. So there are 2 things I'm asking it to highlight, so I want us to use 2 different colors. First of all, I'm asking that we highlight the dialogue. Okay, I asked you to include dialogue in at least one place in your paper. I've worked with most of you to make sure that it's in the correct format, but if it's not, then I may not be able to find it. So anywhere in this paper that you have, this story, I should say, where you have somebody, it could be you, it could be your mom, it could be anybody in this story that is speaking or saying something in general. You're going to come through, we're going to find it, and we're going to highlight it in yellow. So right here, I can see my first one is when I put down the words, "Good luck," she said, and wrapped her arms around me. I'm going to start by clicking on it, dragging, and highlighting it with this default blue color. Now, in order to make this stay highlighted when I turn it in, I need to come up here to this little highlighter icon. Now this is right next to bold, italic, underline, and then text color, we have highlight color. Click on that and we're just going to choose this yellow option. Now if you've included dialogue in more than one place, or had somebody speaking in more than one place, I want you to find the other places that you've done that and do the same thing. Click on it, drag it, highlight it in yellow. This way, if for whatever reason you didn't do it right the first time, I'll ignore that and look at the second one, and I'll grade you based on whichever one you did the most correct. Isn't that nice of me? So anywhere that you have somebody speaking, highlight that yellow, and I can go in and find it and give you the points for that. Now, I'm also asking that you highlight character details. So I asked at the beginning of this that we think of characters to include and that you tell me what they are like. Now, for most of us, that'll be in our third paragraph or somewhere around there, which starts for me right about here. 1, 2, 3, my third paragraph. Anywhere that you have spoken about a character and told me what they are like, I want you to highlight that in pink. So let's read my third paragraph here. I have my mom was here with me. She had curly black hair. That's talking about a character. That's talking about my mom. But that's not telling me what she's like. It's just telling me what she looks like. She smiled at me and looked with a look that showed how proud she was. Now that is telling me what she's like. It's telling me that she is a proud mama. So I'm going to highlight that pink. Okay, and I'm going to look through here real quick to see if there were any other instances of people and I explained what they were like. So I have here the instructor of this course was rude. He didn't smile. So that's trying my best to let you know that he wasn't a very nice guy. I'm going to highlight that in pink. I also have this part here where I told you that I was timid. Timid, of course, meaning shy. That's telling the reader what this person is like in the story. So now I have all of these things highlighted. I have my paper in Times New Roman 12-point font, double spaced, with a heading at the top that includes my name, my teacher's name, my subject and grade, the date, the title of my story. There's nothing more to do here. Take one final look at your paper. Read what you put down. The only way to catch typos is to read and make sure that there are no typos. Actually, there is one other way to catch typos. If you have not done this already, you should come up to the tools bar, and across this bar here we'll have File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, and then Tools. Click on Tools, and the first suggestion will be Spelling and Grammar. Make sure that spelling suggestions and grammar suggestions are both checked. Now, what that's going to do is if you spell a word wrong, it will give you these little red underlines. You can right-click on it, and it will give you this little question. Did you mean to spell it this way? Click on that, and it will automatically correct it. Should also catch things like lowercase i's. Here it goes. Obviously doesn't catch all of them, but here at the beginning of the sentence, it caught it. I. It might catch other names as well. It might catch missing periods. Let's see if that'll get it there. Yep, so it caught that missing period. So once again, in order to get those red and blue underlines, you go up to Tools, Spelling and Grammar, Show Spelling Suggestions. So grammar suggestions should both be checked. And then you can just kind of go through and make sure that you don't have any typos. Now you can turn it in. This has been a long process, you guys, and I'm really proud of all of you for sticking with it and working through this as hard as you can. I've already read the majority of the papers. As I go through them, I have seen a lot of great stories. I've seen a lot of great ideas, and I've seen a lot of great writing. So keep it up. Do your best. Show me how good you can do at this. And after winter break, we will start working on some stuff that isn't writing a narrative, I promise. Have a good day.